Hey everybody, welcome into the Monkey Barrel Comedy Chat Show. Most of you know how this show works, but our wonderful guest today is the wonderful Stuart Laws.
Hello.
Hello. So I'll explain to you, and for people who might be watching the first ever episode, the way this show works is every week we have these wonderful comedians coming and doing solo shows here. So we like to sit down with them, have an interview, ask not the obvious questions, maybe weirder questions we've got from the public, questions we've got from other comedians, questions we've come up with ourselves.
Whoa.
We can do that. So very welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you're kind of a raconteur comedian. You've done a bit of everything. You've done stand-up, you've done sketch. Recently when we've been talking to comedians, there's been a lot of that where people have done sketches and then gone into stand-up. And
Yeah.
Where did you start first?
I started as stand-up and then I have a double act and I have a sketch show. I did something with Matt Winning a few years ago, maybe 8 years ago now, where we did a sketch
Which I bet
show.
doesn't feel like 8 years ago.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
At all.
No.
Where the end of every single sketch was the reveal that the entire time I was playing the character of Wario in that sketch. Now, we've struggled to monetize that afterwards.
Well, you could sue Elon Musk because he has stolen that.
When he
for
did
SNL.
that, I was like, what the hell is
What
going
is
on?
this?
And where's the charm of the performance?
He also did the Mario voice. He went, I'm a Wario. And I'm like, that's not Wario.
Yeah.
Wario's very like, hey. He does that. He goes, hey.
Like this, yeah.
I like a money.
Never did that. Never did that voice.
It is weird that Mario's like, I love mushrooms and I love hanging out. And Wario's just like, I like money. That's been his character.
So Wario's a capitalist and
Yeah.
Mario's sort of like a hippie who wants to get high and just chill with his friends.
And Luigi's like, I'm just a floating voter here.
Yeah,
Sometimes I want this, sometimes I want that.
Luigi's doing the paperwork in that plumbing business.
100%.
Yeah.
And Waluigi, I feel, is just a mass hallucination between the three of them. I don't think Waluigi's a real guy.
Yeah, I either that or he's someone that is mentioned a lot in like female WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
Don't be alone in the green room with Waluigi.
He absolutely has the vibe of like one of those guys in old silent movies that ties a woman to the train tracks.
Oh, 100%.
But definitely a guy in a green room that comes up and shakes your hands and says, I know you've probably heard some rumors. And you go, oh, no,
yeah, but he's
no.
hiding rope behind his back at the same time. And
Exactly.
on his Google Maps, his local train tracks. What the hell?
It's like, I just love trains. I got a TikTok where, fantastic. So, how would you describe your comedy to people who maybe are seeing you for the first time?
So I was actually talking about this with someone last night. They came to the late show at Monkey Barrel last night, and their sister described me when they first saw me do comedy about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They said it's the vibe of someone's getting bullied, but no one's getting bullied. You know that energy, that excitement of like, oh my God, something's happening.
I love
but
that.
No
I
one's
love
getting
that.
bullied.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like meeting like your partner's brothers. You know, and there's that vibe of like, oh, are they gonna be mean or are they gonna be weird? And then you're like, oh, I'm part of the team.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I loved that. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that's what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to do that. It was the vibe that came out of it. And I feel happy.
That's good. I mean, the worst thing you can have as a comedian is like someone walks in, like the vibe is like an argument just happened. But if you'd been there the whole time, there was no argument. It's just the air that someone brings to the show.
I've seen a few of those shows.
Oh, I have absolutely.
But none at Monkey Barrel Comedy, one of the best venues in the entire world.
Well known. If you want to come along, there's comedy gigs every week. Come along and check them out.
But if you want to see one of those sucks the air out of the room shows, get along to Underbelly during the Fringe.
That is such an accurate. I was thinking of that gig and I was like, yeah, I remember being at that gig and it was there. Yeah, okay. So something we do on this show to try and kind of help our guests kind of acclimatize to the interrogation that you're about to go through is to jump back a little time machine. It's the social media time machine. We're going to jump back to an old post of yours on social media. It's going to come up on screen right now randomly. So for people who are listening on Spotify, this is a picture of you pointing a gun at a dog. So if ever, I don't think there's ever been a more pertinent moment for people to jump over to YouTube and watch the footage than right now.
So that's 14th of November 2022. Let me say this. I didn't get on the Instagram train for a long time. I had a very private personal account where about 100 people that I know intimately. I don't mean that
were you
I fucked
worried
them.
you might be too intense? And you were like, now I'm ready. And then you posted this.
Yeah, I was like, the vibe is moving to Instagram. Twitter's declining.
Yeah.
You know, TikTok, who knows what's going on
Who
with
knows
it.
what's
Let's
happening?
get
It might
on
get banned,
Instagram.
or we might mandatorily have to join it. I don't know what the deal is with TikTok.
And I was like, well, I'm desperate to put content out there, you know, let people know the sort of person they're following, start to, you know, get something go viral. And as you can see, 41 people like that. That's big.
It's pretty good. And well, yes, 41, yeah. And we've crossed out a name and 40 others. But also, Eleanor Morton has written underneath reported, which is very fair.
Yeah, she reported
you,
me
Eleanor.
to the Good Comedians Police because she knows how, what a wonderful post that is.
Yeah.
And she hates dogs. Eleanor Morton, I have seen, and I hope this is not libelous. I saw her curb stomp a dog.
Did she post it on Instagram? Because we could use that when
I
Eleanor
think
comes
she
on
posted
here.
on her private one. So that, yeah.
Maybe if you could draw an image of that, we'll just post that up and say, Eleanor, you posted this. What is this about?
Yeah,
Come
I'll
on.
send you over the image so that you can see. I'll screenshot from her private one.
I do like that it says world hashtag peace underneath.
Hashtag peace, hashtag dogs, hashtag respect. You know, that's
great.
important to get that out there.
So what is this scenario?
So I think what happened here is that Lucy Pearman, that is Bob Sausage, that's Lucy Pearman's dog, came over to my office and we were filming something. And she said, is it okay if Bob Sausage comes over? And I was like, yeah, sure. We have some blank firing weapons there in a locked box.
Yeah.
And I thought, today's the day we get it out. It was Bob Sausage, so sweet, just was immediately just like interested in everything. And then when was drawn to the gun, I was like, that's an image.
That is an image for sure. I do like the dogs just like, I don't know what this is, and I'm willing to sniff it.
The
and
dog
get
was
excited.
trying to put like a little a daisy in the end in the barrel.
Yeah.
That's what the dog was trying to do, to be like, make love, not peace. And I was like, you're a dog, I'm not fucking you.
Yeah, there was a real moment there where you could have finally put down the guns for good.
Yeah, but nope.
But no, you were like, I love putting guns in dogs' faces.
Yeah, it's sad actually what happened to Bob Sausage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, head got blown off when
I knew that's where you were going. I was like, I'm going to tee this up.
there's such a little devious glance in my eyes of like, I can't believe this dog's doing this. That's cruel, isn't it? Because the dog doesn't know what it's doing, doesn't know the visuals, and you can see like the hammer is cocked back. That is ready to fire.
I mean, it could be innocent dog putting its face up, just being like, hey, I don't know what you're doing. Or it could be pure Liam Neeson putting his head against the gun saying, you don't have the balls to pull that trigger. I dare you.
Particular set of skills. Mainly fetch.
You don't have the bone in your body that's required to pull that trigger, and I know bones.
I will find you, and I will bring the ball back.
I have a very particular set of skills. Sitting, begging.
One paw up.
But I will not roll. I will find you and I will roll over. Great. That's perfect. So was that filming a sketch, or was it just like you had the opportunity? Because I know so many comedians that do sketches, and you go over to their house and you're like, why do you have a gun sitting on your table, or some weird thing from a sketch?
I think it might have been like a music video or a sketch or something, and I think she was recording like an audio sitcom. Like she had to record her lines, and we have a vocal booth. So I run a production company that does a lot of comedy, and she had to record some lines in our vocal booth. And I said, well, a little trade, you can do that for free if you appear in this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And she brought Bob Sausage, and then that iconic image was born.
Yeah. You'd one rule, which was don't bring your dogs. And she brought the dog, and you were like, right, I need to send a message to the world.
Tonight, you're going to break that one rule.
All right, fantastic. All right, well, hey, if you're watching, why not jump on there, look on social media, give you a follow, and also be one of the extra likes.
Oh, please, scroll back.
Or just leave a comment. This person's a monster.
That's the most terrifying moment, isn't it? When you're like trying to explain to someone like a toxic person or an embarrassing person, and you're like, let me show you one of their posts, and you scroll back a year or so, and you hand the phone over, but there's like 30 seconds when they're looking at taking it in, and they're like, can I scroll? And you're like, yeah. But you're like panicked that thumb's going to do an accidental double tap.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the stress. Sometimes I do it just to make myself feel alive.
Just a little like, whoa, an exciting
Zhuzh in the
boost.
day.
Yeah. Oh my God, the terror of that. Because there's no way to explain that.
No.
What's the worst? Have you ever had your phone do something like unexpected? Like, phones don't really do it as much anymore.
No, I don't. And I always feel like when phones do something unexpected, it's not. It's someone pretending that that's the case. I know the worst. Like occasionally, I'll accidentally follow someone who's followed me because like the button which is annoying when it's like blah blah has followed you and it's got a follow button next to it, so you just go to scroll, but you hit on that and then you're like, I just followed some random fucking idiot who likes me. I don't want to follow someone who likes me.
Disgusting.
It's gross.
You want to invite them over to your house, put a picture of a gun up to their face, just so they know. I had one where I had an old Android phone, and it was, coming near the end of its life, and it just started doing weird things where it would take an old text, like it would randomly pick a text from a thread and send it again. What? So like I would, and it would only do it when I would turn my phone on. It would, it would only happen when I would turn my phone on, and it would send a message. So like my friend got a message and it was like at the airport, and it was from when we'd gone on holidays the year before. So the message was just like, at the airport now, where are you? And he just like called me and said, what is this text? And I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on there. And so a comedian I knew who worked in a mobile phone shop in Dublin, he had gotten me like a really good deal on this phone. He was the person that said, get this phone, it's great. And I said to him, like, this is happening. And he's like, that's impossible. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not a real thing. And I went, I'll show you. And I turned my phone off and I turned it back on. And of course, then it didn't do it. Yeah. And then I go to the bathroom and I leave my phone there and I come back. And I still don't know whether he did this or it was the phone did this, but it made a message and I opened it up and it had randomly picked a text and sent it to an ex. Oh, wow. And the message it had sent was like a message from like a year earlier that said, hey, thinking of you, do you want to go hang out this weekend?
Oh my God.
And so I was like, oh my, and he saw it happen. And he was like, you're the unluckiest person in the world. And I was like, but you've seen this. You've just seen this happen. I didn't do this.
He could have stopped it at any point as well.
I said, you saw this happen. And then, I was like, oh my God, I'll have to just message them and say, hey, sorry, my phone's busted at the moment.
Which is not believable.
Well, yeah, not believable at all. So that's why I was like, oh, I don't know how to phrase this. And then I get a message back, hey, been thinking of you too. We should definitely meet up. And I'd already made the message and taken a little screen grab of the old message and like, hey, sorry, my phone's sending old messages, which you can see it's from this date last year. So sorry. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. And he was like, give it to me, and took it. And I said, what are you doing? And he's like, I just sent it. And then handed me back the phone. And that person thought I was insane and crazy.
And you're with them now?
No. I still don't know how to tell them. I mean, wow. If you could take a picture of you holding a gun to my head, making me text from that day, that would be perfect for me. But no, he was there. And I was like, nobody, I mean, even him seeing it, he was still like, I still don't believe that.
Yeah,
and he's like, I just watched it happen.
The magic trick was so good.
And it was a person I got on with quite well. But like, they were like, that was insane. And I was like, I promise you, I will bring you to him and he can explain that really happened.
Wow, that
so
is
I got it. He's like, next day I went into his work and got a new phone. I was like, yeah. But it was a HTC One. That's how old it was. And it was
and
a
the HTC 2 had AI to write new messages to get your exes back.
It would take a picture of you as you sent it and you'd be giving a thumbs up like, I meant this. This was intentional. Okay, so we have some questions from social media that have come in. So these can be chaotic, these can be wild. So our first question from social media is from Lily, and Lily says, what's a place you've traveled to that left a lasting impression on you?
Left a lasting impression.
And that can be negative, that can be positive.
I mean, I love Iceland. It's quite a dull answer, really. I can't think of anything hilarious to do.
I've ever seen go to Iceland is like, God, I love Iceland. It's just people love it immediately.
Yeah, it's like, for me, I don't like. I live in London and I come to Edinburgh. I've lived in Edinburgh for over a year of my life because of the Fringe.
Because of each month.
Because it tots up. So I sort of think to myself, I sort of don't need to see another sort of like European city. Or even American city. I think I'm done with them.
Yeah, they're all very similar.
If I want to go on holiday, I'm going to go to the wilderness as much as possible. And driving around Iceland, I did the entire loop of it. There's a road that goes all the way around.
Yeah.
And there was a moment when it was just me and a friend, and we got to a town where we knew that the next job was to drive over a glacier to get where we're staying that night. Mm-hmm. We'd stopped, beautiful sunshine. There was like a running track that was like cut out of the snow, deep snow. Wow. Like 6 foot of snow. Yeah. Run around I had a drone at the time, so I popped the drone up. We had a nice time, got a bit of food and went, right, let's do it. Just as a storm came in, and it had come from behind us. And I was like, I'm an idiot. But I was like, I think that we could get ahead of that storm, get above, over the glacier. Yeah. You would get above the storm, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like,
you were like, this is my movie moment.
Yeah, yeah. Now, look, that did pan out. But what happened was that the temperatures up there were like -20, -21, something like that. The windscreen immediately froze over.
Oh, wow.
We had to pull over at the top of a glacier and just scrape ice off of it with like the heater going fully, and then got down finally the other side straight back into the storm again, which was absolutely brutal. And then the next day we did a hike to go and see a volcano over that side. It's sort of like the north, slightly east of the country, near a town called Husavik, which featured in Eurovision's song.
I remember that the Eurovision
film,
movie,
which was filmed in Edinburgh. But we went there before. I just picked it out on a map. We were going to go up this volcano, and there's a place where you can park right near it. But we were like, we can walk through this lava field, which Game of Thrones filmed in, everything like that. But it's in 6 to 10 foot of snow, and I would guess that no one had walked it since the day before, because you could see very, very slight imprints occasionally
that had been kind of snowed in and filled in.
So we were like, well, let's do it. But then it was like foggy. It was -14. We were like, what are we doing here? Let's give up. And I was like, let's try the next ridge. Let's see what's there. And as we got over that next ridge, it literally like cinematic moment, like the fog started to clear and we could see the volcano like half a kilometer away. And we're like, right, we're doing it. We carried on, got up, went round the entirety of the volcano at the top, came back down, got back to, and we realized we didn't bring any food with us. All we brought with us was one bottle of water.
Oh my God.
And we were away for almost 4 hours, just hiking through snow. I was in trainers.
Yeah. All of your stories like on this trip are like how people end up dying on trips.
It's
but yours just ends with like, and it was great. We had a great time.
We got back and we got in the car at the end of this big hike. And, we're both like fairly fit and however old we were at the time, like early to mid 30s, and just sat there in silence, just eating the food that we had left in the car. We took bags with us.
Yeah.
In my bag was a drone.
You could film your last will and testament from 50 foot up.
And a book, Joel Dommett's book, because it had just come out and I'd bought it and I sort of wanted to film a funny video of me reading it at the top of a volcano to send to him.
But Joel would have looked so far into that if you'd perished on that mountain. It's like, you went up that mountain and read my book. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that
could have set fire to it. Wouldn't even set fire to the book. Loved it that much.
Yeah. And so that moment was just like sitting there with just like, okay, I think we need to stop being so stupid.
Yeah.
This is stupid. And we need to stop it because it's not even youth would have saved us there. Not even, we wouldn't have gotten away with it if something bad, if the storm had come in or something like that. We were like,
for a minute, I thought you were going to say you got to the top of that mountain, and as you went over the ridge, the storm was there with a gun, just secretly waiting for you. But absolutely, like there's so many moments where things can almost go wrong, but they work out. And I feel often people can go, I guess things just always work out. And you're like, you're so close to the razor's edge. You're really close. But that's nice. That you got to have that moment of like looking out and contemplation, which I think is something a lot of people miss. You don't really get that if you go to a European city. Like even if you go to Amsterdam, I mean, unless you're sitting in like one of those weed cafes and you're just staring at a beer mat for 20 minutes. It's not the same as like looking around and realizing how small you are, but also the effect you have. That's kind of what people should be doing on trips, I feel.
Yeah, I for me that's the appeal. I also just quite like sort of getting doing this job. You're like constantly like interacting with people. You're constantly doing stuff where you barely get a moment. And like, most people think, oh, you get up on stage, you go and be funny for a bit, or you go and film this thing or something like that. Yeah. But it's so much admin.
Admin is the hardest part, I think.
Yeah, and my partner is a comic as well, and we just sometimes are just sat there for like 2 hours, both just doing admin, and you're just like, this is crazy how much work goes into trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spent an hour 2 days ago just because I did a corporate gig, and they were like, "Oh, we need to pay you through this very specific system website.
Oh my
So you need to
God.
set up an account and do." And it took 2 hours of this just to get paid. Not even. I spent more time setting up the invoice than I did on stage.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "What is this?"
And sometimes you go, oh, like this year is the first year for the Edinburgh Fringe that I'm paying for proper PR, and Julian is great. I think it's absolutely fantastic, but I paid for it to be like, finally someone else can take this off. There's so much more work suddenly for me to do. I've got to fill out all these bloody questionnaires.
Gotta come in here and answer these questions. I just want to sit on a volcano. Can't people understand?
Volcano, please. There's one nearby. I could go to it here.
I will shoot a dog in the face if you don't give me space. That's a perfect answer, though. Definitely, like something that gave you a little bit of kind of chill and kind of perspective. I think that's always good. I always say to people, I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, that what's so funny is about 2 days after the Fringe ends, there used to be a huge fireworks show at the Edinburgh Fringe. They would do it over the castle.
Yeah.
And so many comedians would come over from Ireland, and I would be like, if you can, like, stay an extra day and just watch that fireworks show, because you get to look at something amazing. You get to take a little bit of moment and go like, oh, I did the Fringe. I did this.
Yeah.
So many people will do their last show at 9 p.m., go to sleep, wake up at 3 a.m., go to the airport, and then fly back to Dublin and never get that kind of moment. You need to take a moment to just go, I did that. I've achieved something.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's a moment of punctuation where you just go, that's it now. A thing was completed.
Yeah.
And so often in this job, like,
no one's there to tell you, good job, here's
Yes.
your certificate, here's your raise, here's this.
and every time I've wanted to quit it for 10 years now, right? But every time that you get that slight, tiny little bit of extra thing that you're like, oh, I got sort of close or got the thing I wanted to get. So now I have to keep going that next bit. So it feels like every paragraph just runs into each other.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. It's to have a
Just give yourself a little chapter break. I mean, the pandemic, I think, did that for people, where they were like, but I don't think people even realized that. They were just screaming and then realized after the fact, like, oh, that was a little pause. And I think the people that are still doing comedy post that are like, I enjoy it. I want to do this, you know? And then some people just are too deep in.
And some people really should have the internet taken away from them.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so top 3 animals. This is a question from Dorian. Top 3 animals, go.
Top 3 animals: the naked mole rat.
Good answer.
Maybe at number 1.
Comfortable.
What a fascinating
likes
animal.
to be nude.
Yeah. Has like it's the only mammal, or one of the only mammals, that has like a colony system with like a queen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it follows that sort of like bees and termites and all of that, but it's a mammal.
It really is a nudist colony for animals. That's incredible.
Then the Caledonian crow.
Ooh.
Maybe it's that. I can't remember if it's that specific. Crows in general, corvids, are like fascinating sort of animals. They're very smart.
Yeah.
They've been like observed sort of like dropping like nuts onto like crossings so that cars drive over them, crack them open, and then they come back in because they know lights stop them and all of that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so incredible. Because I've heard of like birds like bringing, I used to hear it where I used to live, they would bring snails up onto the roof, and you would hear this rolling noise, and it was so they would roll down the roof off and then smash in the patio, and they could eat. But the fact that they can even comprehend, all right, those lights will stop.
Yeah.
Crows
and
are
I'll have time to get back down there, get the nut. And then finally, let's go dolphin.
Dolphin?
Yes, the humans of the sea.
The humans of the sea.
I've always called them. Also, just from the fact that they saved what's his name, Dick Van Dyke.
Yes, they saved Dick Van Dyke, which is incredible.
Yeah.
What a great story for him. They also saved. There was a few years ago, there was an Irish meme of like a Northern Irish guy who was walking to school in the snow.
Yes,
and they said, "How are you?" And he goes,
guy.
"Oh God, you wouldn't be long getting frostbite. Wouldn't be long getting frostbite now." And then all of a sudden, the story came out where he swam out into the open ocean, and some dolphins found him. And then when the Coast Guard came along, they just saw this huge pod that was floating around him, was swimming around him, and they picked him up out of the sea. And everyone's like, "Oh, isn't that cool?" And I'm like, "Hi, why did he swim out into the sea?" There seems like a more serious question there, where he's like, "You wouldn't be long getting drowned out there."
Well, this is the problem with like online fame, right?
Yeah.
He hit that level of fame and then struggled. But, we've all been in that situation. You had something go viral and you're like trying to get that hit again.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing you want to be is in the one viral club, right?
Well, he started doing songs, but all of his songs were about him wanting to shag old ladies. which is a real thing.
Hey, we've all been through that phase.
We might have to force Ewan to put a tiny clip of his song in here where it's him in bed with a lady and he's like,
take me down to the Barrel City, the country boy, you see. There's alcohol that makes them fall in the river.
But so I think he's just a wild character. His next thing is he wants to be the next High King of Ireland, and you're like, well, that's
Who's the previous High King?
Well, probably thousands of years ago. So everyone's like, what are you talking about? And he wants Conor McGregor to be the president, and you're like, this sounds like a nightmare.
And he wants to bring snakes back.
Yeah, he wants to do everything anti-Irish for Ireland, bringing snakes back. Everyone wears orange. Like
no one's ever allowed to say Guinness only tastes brilliant in Ireland ever again.
Guinness can only now be white foam with a tiny little bit of black liquid
and served
at the top.
in walkabouts in London.
It's just he was such an insane guy. But he had that situation with dolphins, and then also Ireland has dolphins close to our heart because in 1984 a dolphin swam into harbour in Dingle, and the fishermen kept feeding it, and it just stayed around for years and years and years, for decades. It disappeared in 2020 because all the boat tours that would go out that would feed Fungi the dolphin stopped going out. So Fungi was like, oh, I guess they don't like me anymore. So he just swam out into open ocean and left after living in that harbour for 30 years.
Oh my God.
It's the Irish nation has been more crushed by that than anything else. That was
Than the Thierry Henry handball.
Yeah. People were like, the Queen died, and we're like, but where's Fungi? Where's Fungi? We wanted to have like a 10-gun salute where they just fired it into the water.
Hey, I'll join in on that.
Yeah, but then we're like, that's also sending a mixed message to.
I'll point my gun at Fungi.
Just a fun guy with a gun. All right. So we have another question from Noah, which is, what is your most obscure talent or hobby?
I mean, it has to be beer mat flipping at this point. It's
Really?
something that I run a live comedians beer mat flipping championship.
Really?
Which I'm doing on the 13th of August in Monkey Barrel 3.
Oh my God.
It's a late night. It's going to be chaos. The reigning champion is David O'Doherty.
Of course.
From last year.
I could imagine David doing that.
Big hands.
Yeah.
Big hands.
So it's like someone wearing mittens, just boof.
He was up against Mickey Overman, who I would say technically was the better flipper. But smaller hands, it just becomes difficult.
It's different skills. It's different skill sets. It's like she can maneuver in the air quicker and faster. It's a David O'Doherty Goliath situation.
Now I can't compete in that because I would just win every time.
Yeah, you're that good.
I think my record in a single stack is 46.
Wow,
46 in one, because one of the rounds in it is it's a knockout thing. 8 comedians. It starts with a speed round, and then the semi-final. No, the quarter semi-final is I flip a stack as big as I can.
Yeah.
Whatever I manage. In a 1v1, they have to go up against each other to flip that many, and they're allowed to split it into smaller stacks.
Oh,
so they might split it into 5, and then bam, bam, bam.
That's incredible.
But no one is getting.
Are they flipping it over, or are they flipping it and grabbing it?
So it's this motion.
Oh wow!
So it's a 180. It starts like that over the edge, up and
47. That's incredible.
Yeah, 45 or 46.
45 or 46.
In that stack.
Sorry, you said it's 46. I went 47?
Yeah.
46. Nah, I'm not impressed anymore. That's bullshit. That's nothing. Wow, that's incredible. You've taken an obscure talent and made profit out of it. Made it into a thing.
You gotta do what you can with an entirely pointless fixation from your childhood.
Yeah. Or it's like people saying comedy is like, take what you love, make it into something you perform, and then you'll never enjoy it the same again as long as you live. So our usual thing that we have here is we have guests. Previous guests will send in questions, and our guest last week was the wonderful Garrett Millerick, and Garrett has sent in 3 questions. Let's see what these are.
Hello, Stuart Laws. My first question for you is, what's your favourite way to waste time, other than answering questions on podcasts, of course? My second question is, as something of a comedy polymath, I'd like to ask you, what is your favourite tool to express yourself comedically, a microphone or a camera? And my final question is, other than ones that you have directed and indeed performed, what are your favourite stand-up specials?
Great.
Those are three good questions.
Yeah, lovely
I thought they were going to be cranky old man questions. That's what I thought they were. I thought it was going to be real, like, what do you think about Europe? Here we go, Garrett. So Garrett's first question was, what is your favorite way to waste time?
To wait, I mean, is literally just sitting on the sofa, planning to get up off the sofa and do work. Just lying there, or like lying in bed being like, wouldn't it be so good if I had coffee right now? It's in the room next to me if I just went there.
Yeah.
I've even gone so far as I have a kettle that is connected to Alexa.
Yeah. Oh,
so
you can...
if I fill it up the night before, I can be in bed and say, computer, kettle on, and I'll hear, boom, and then just hear it start to bubble and be like, I've done half of it. Sometimes I'll grind the beans the night before. You know what I'm like. I'm a grind the beans the night before sort of guy.
I guessed it. I didn't want to say when you walked in, I was like, oh, well, here's someone's been grinding the beans last night.
Wait, you know that terrible feeling when you wake up in the morning and you're like, I didn't grind the beans last night. I'm going to have to grind them right now.
Looking at your hands shaking. What have I done?
I'm going to have to hear that horrible, horrible sound right now. That freshly ground bean smell that I wanted last night. So yeah, that's it. It's just literally inaction. I don't enjoy it. I want to be busy all the time. Mm-hmm. That is the truth. Or it's just watching a sport or a film that I like. That's it. Consuming other people's entertainment.
Yeah.
Or creating my own entertainment. Or fucking. Right?
Thank God you said it. I was like,
yeah, you know what, actually?
This is two men on a podcast. We need to be very toxic, please. That's
it.
how it
It's
is.
fucking, man. I want to be fucking 24/6. Sundays for God.
It's weird that he says that in the Bible.
Yeah.
God's like, don't fuck on Sundays. I'll know. And I hate
oral
it.
only. He said oral only to me in a vision.
Yeah.
A sexy vision.
A very sexy vision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only visions God does. They take that out of the Bible, but that burning bush was hot. You wouldn't believe it. Okay, that's reasonable. That's a good way to waste time, like in that moment in between everything. And it's funny as well, you mentioned, traveling to Iceland. That was that moment where you weren't doing anything. There was no expectation to do anything. That's the way to do a holiday.
Yeah, that flight travel as well is always something where I'm like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do so many things, and then you get on there and you're like, man, I can only watch the shittest film I can find. And then try desperately to fall asleep.
I mean, it's tough. I went on holidays last year and they had the worst Elton John performer at the hotel, and I was just like, I can't listen to this. I sat there and listened to the whole thing, hating it the whole time. I should have just gotten up, but he wasn't even singing the words. He was just going.
So you were halfway through that. You were just watching it and just thinking, I'm still sitting. Watching this Elton John.
That's why this podcast exists.
I want to go to my room right now.
Okay, question number 2 from Garrett was, what is your favorite tool to express yourself comedically? Is it microphone, camera? What is it?
It is really difficult, and I feel like I've spent 20 years now trying to sort of deciding fully. I've done stand-up properly for like 15 years maybe, and that was such an exciting moment to discover that's something I could do. Because what stand-up is such a direct access to an audience, to a response, where you go, I've just had this idea, I've said it out loud, and now I know whether or not I'm a fucking idiot or not.
It's instantaneous compared to everything else, which is
so much
editing
work
and working.
so much collaboration. I love working with people, and like my company, we film and I direct a bunch of specials, and we do some scripted stuff here and there and try to develop stuff as well. And I love doing all that. And I direct live shows as well. I directed Ian Smith's show last year. Which was great. I directed Sakisa's last year.
Winning show last year.
Yeah. And, I love doing that and working with people. But there's something so visceral about getting on stage.
That direct line to people's ears.
And I think I just keep doing it as long as I can, as long as I'm not compromising everything else. That's always been my thing, is like, as long as stuff isn't suffering, as long as I'm achieving them all to like a standard I want to be achieving them at, then I'll keep doing it. And as soon as one starts to suffer, then I'll have that decision to make. But right now, Garrett, I ain't making that decision.
Garrett trying to force you to retirement again.
Yeah.
All those questions. Don't you just love going back to Iceland? Shouldn't you just live there?
You ain't getting me out of this game, Garrett.
And Garrett's final question was, what are your favorite stand-up specials?
Harry Hill Hooves. was such like a big moment for me. I saw that in preview before he went on tour with it. And I love the film special. I love the one before that. I don't remember what it was called specifically. It was probably just called Harry Hill Live or something. It was such like a defining thing. I didn't even realize until a bunch of years into doing stand-up that was one of my major experience, like influences. Even down to the fact that for years, my stand-up character didn't have parents. He just always talked about his nan parents, his nan and his nan dad. And I just thought that was funny to sort of, if you got a nan, you'd have a nan dad.
Yeah.
Just kept doing it and then realised that Harry Hill only talks about his gran. He doesn't talk about his mum or his dad ever.
Yeah.
He's just, always grandpa.
Sort of
And I was
influence.
like, wow, that's something just gone in there.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that he doesn't say nan parents because I'd be like, oh, I've just copied someone. And then that... the Tig Notaro half hour where her whole life fell apart.
Yeah.
And then it's not quite as like clean cut as like her whole life fell apart on one journey and she went to the club and did this thing. It happened over a little while.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
But it was still just like so raw. It's partly so incredible because like I've been moving more into like talking about myself more on stage and being more truthful. But like I feel like that's that special while simultaneously being genius and amazing and so perfect by a corrupted so many comedians' minds where they're like, time for me to do my serious half hour.
Yeah.
And just most of us aren't as good as Tig Notaro, and most of us have not had life events as fucked as that.
Yeah, and with that show, watching with Tig's show, it feels like it had to be done. It felt like a person saying, going, I have to say this. I have to get this out of my brain. I have to process this. And obviously, if you'd filmed that a year later, it would have been so refined down. But there was something like almost hearing a demo reel of like a band that you love. There's something raw there is so interesting just to hear that.
Yes, before the polish comes in, before like they've played it at a load of gigs and they've worked out the kinks and all of that. Like she's so funny. And that was so raw that there's like such like alchemy to her and that situation that's so it just can't be replicated in any other way, really.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's unique is that how many specials do you get to see something that specific? Like it has a story behind it. Like this is, if you just pitched it to someone as, do you want to watch this comedy special where this happened, and a person went on stage?
Yeah.
You'd be like, yeah, I want to see that. Absolutely, of course. And watching it, you see that it's real and genuine and true. Whereas, like you said, there's so many comedians who are just like, well, I got to apologize for that thing I did. Better come out in front of a sign that says, you're welcome. What? I don't understand that at all.
Another apology show. Yeah.
Sorry, I guess is the name of the special.
It's always so fun when you see like those apologies where they caveat it by explaining how rich they are or how influential they are, and you're like, wow, it's just narcissism.
It was very funny when Louis C.K. came out and he was like, his first line after all that stuff came out was like, do you ever lose $30 million in one day? And I was like, this is not the way to go with this.
Yeah.
I was like, this is your angle?
Yeah.
It's actually, this has been really tough on me. I've only got 60 million now. Insane. I wish we'd had a different question to end the podcast on. Well, that is good. I appreciate that. Like a special that you can sit down and process and makes you think about. Like that's the thing. Watching Tig special, you kind of think about yourself. It is the comedy equivalent of sitting on a volcano in Iceland and processing things.
Thank you, Tig.
And then other people's specials are the comedy equivalent of a dog pointing a gun at you. Well, thank you for coming in and answering questions there. I think we found out a lot. Is there anything you want to plug that's coming up in the next while to tell people about?
I guess the Edinburgh Fringe. I'm back.
Yeah.
With sort of a spiritual sequel to my show last year.
Okay.
So last year the show was called Stuart Laws. Is that guy still going? And this year is called Stuart Laws Has to Be Joking. And it's sort of like a furtherance of that. Like last year was the first time that I actively told the truth on stage, and that the show was very much like something I'd been working on for maybe 5 years and had never quite found the right way to do it.
Yeah.
And it turns out people like that.
Yeah.
They like that from me.
It is weird to think though when you show a bit more of yourself, and you like, we all started with comedy and you would like make a character and you would make an identity of yourself, and then you would show a bit more real and people would be like, I like that. Like
Yeah.
people, I relate to that. I understand that.
Are you fucking kidding me? I have to say truthful things. I had a routine which was great about when I swallowed a Kinder Egg once.
Yeah.
Can we not just make
I
stuff
want to talk
up?
about Manana Mananda. And you're coming in here asking this.
I'll talk about my mum and my dad.
Fantastic. Well, definitely follow you on social media. As we saw from the picture, it's Stuart Laws Comedy is your Instagram. And you're anywhere else that people can check? TikTok?
I am on TikTok.
Ooh.
I occasionally, sporadically go viral on there. It's interesting what goes viral in different places.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where my M&M World video went viral on TikTok, whereas on Instagram, people weren't that interested. But then, like, the video where I called a wasp by accident went huge viral on Instagram. I just don't understand what the algorithm wants from me. I'll just keep on giving it stuff.
Well, maybe like
you want this?
Maybe like taking a tarot special, comedians will watch your success and they'll all start making wasp content on Instagram.
Yes.
And M&M World content on TikTok. Well, thank you for watching the show today, everybody. Please, if you're enjoying the show, please leave a review or share it around or support it. And if you're ever in Edinburgh and you want to come along to Monkey Proud Comedy, the show's every night. We'd love to see you there at the venue. So from myself, from you behind the camera, from Stuart, have a wonderful rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There's something hiding under the ice, imitation of a sound. There's something standing behind the door. Would you like